going to go through a series called Consider This No Matter Who You Hire. This is just things to identify, things to keep at your chest when you're attempting to hire a subcontractor or a general contractor. Just keep these things in mind so that way you know how to keep them accountable, how you can identify who you're actually working with. So the first thing you want to know with your contractor is how much is due up front. Some contractors will float your rehab. Some investors prefer not to pay their contractor until the work is actually done. So this means that the contractor or the investor, they will go out and they will pick up the material to bring it to the house. You want to know, hey, do I need to pay you up front? Do I not need to pay you up front? In general, contractors who float the upfront cost will charge a little bit more to minimize their risk. A lot of those guys that, okay, you don't have to pay me until I do the work. Not all of them, but a lot of those guys are using some sort of line of credit so they can pay for labor and material until the work is done, so that way you can pay them. Typically, they're going to be a little bit more expensive to do that, but from an investor standpoint, it's cheaper. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit later in the series on how to pay your contractor and when to pay them and that type of stuff. But right now, just consider this stuff when you're hiring your general contractor. How much is due up front? How much money is due upon completion? So you're going to have a draw schedule somewhere where it says something along the line, here's what's due up front, here at 25% this much is due, or when this and this is done, then this is due. Make sure that that is very clear and very defined, or you're going to get into a fight with your contractor. Typically, this is what happens. If you don't define this, if you do not define how someone's going to get paid, the investor and the contractor, they're going to butt heads. Well, this wasn't done. This isn't done it right. This isn't enough work that's done. You said you would pay me every 2 weeks. You said you'd pay me every Friday. You just want that to be clear in the beginning and put it in writing, or you will have conflicts. And this is where investors and contractors, they butt heads with each other, right? And they're like, oh, that contractor was bad, and the contractor says, oh, don't ever work with that investor, he's a crook. It's because you didn't have a clear scope of work and a clear plan before you began work. Is material included in your bid? There's been so many times where I've worked with investors and they said, oh, I thought that this was included and it was not. So you just want to make sure that material and labor are both included into your bid. I once did a rehab that I thought I was getting granite countertops installed. However, on the bid, it pretty much said contact the granite guy, and I did not know that the granite wasn't included into my bid. So make sure that taxes, labor, and material are all going to be included into your bid before you agree for your general contractor to get going on your job. Do you have an accurate bid? And if so, how do you know? So essentially, I recommend to you this. You go through your house before your general contractor even gets there, okay? Go through your house and write down everything that you want on your bid. And if you're hiring more than one GC, let's say you're getting bids from 2 or 3 general contractors, you need to, at minimum, take whatever's on your piece of paper and make sure that it's on the bid. If the bid is not clear, if you do not understand what is on the bid for any reason, then make sure that your contractor rewrites it, or you put notes in there specifically on what you're getting. For example, how much is the value of the tile that you're going to get? Are you going to get a 59-cent tile? Are you going to get a 99-cent tile? Are you going to get a $2 tile? Because if you don't clarify it and you thought you were getting a $2 tile and then your GC puts in a 59-cent tile, well, now you're going to have a conflict with him. When you have a bid, just make sure it is as clear as day. In my opinion, you should have more information on there than needed, so that way if there's a conflict, you can go back and say, okay, this is what we agreed to, not this. Who is liable for doing all the work wrong? So a lot of times when we hire day laborers and the handyman, right? A lot of times when we hire these guys, if they mess up, you're not paying them that much, and most of the time the investor is either going to fire them or they're going to come back and make them do it over again right. However, sometimes because they are day labor rates, if they messed up, sometimes you're going to pay them their day labor to make it right. So the warranties are important. With Chuck in a truck, with the guys that specialize in stuff, Warranties are very important. You want to know that your air condition has a 5-year manufacturer warranty on it, or that your foundation has a lifetime transferable warranty on it. Who is liable if the work is wrong? Just clarify that with your GC, because if you don't, then you're going to come into a situation where the GC is like, no, I'm not really responsible for this. I understand I did it wrong, but I'm going to need another $1,500 to fix it right. It sounds very dumb, and it sounds like the GC should fix it, but I'm just letting you know, with my experience with other general contractors, that's not always the case, and you want to clarify that. What happens when your materials or your tools get stolen? For us, we tell our contractors or our subcontractors, take your tools with you. If they get stolen, it's your responsibility. However, when you work with material, it's a little bit different, right? So on the material side of it, you have $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of material inside the house. You have brand new appliances inside the house. Let's say that the GC went out and picked them up, brought them to the house. Even if you paid for it or if the GC paid for it, it's irrelevant. But what happens if it gets stolen? Someone has to replace it. I highly, highly, highly recommend you have a builder's risk policy that covers not only damage but also your materials. Some people have builder's risk policies and it does not cover your materials. Make sure that you implement that, because this is a problem that happens. We haven't had too much stuff stolen from houses, but every once in a while people break in, they steal something, and then it's an awkward conversation. Hey, I've already installed this $3,000 stove or something like that, but somebody stole it. Who is responsible if it gets stolen? I'll tell you 9 out of 10 times it's going to be the investor. However, clarify that with your GC. Make sure your GC is running your job properly, so that way if something does get stolen, it's very minimum loss to both parties. What kind of insurance do they have? You want to know what kind of insurance your contractors have. We have an insurance policy that covers all of our subcontractors, whether they're insured or not. Most general contractors that I talk to, they have an insurance policy that only covers themselves. So there's 2 ways to conquer that. One, they can require all their subcontractors to have an insurance policy that will cover the subcontractors if the subcontractors make a mistake. And then the GC, if the GC makes a mistake. However, you should look at contractors who have an all-exclusive policy, because you don't know who they're going to hire, and if they hire somebody that does something wrong on your house, like they light it on fire, then you want to make sure that you're not claiming on your builder's risk policy, but that you're going to be able to use your insurance policy for your general contractor. That way you're at less risk. I'm going to go back to this insurance one. On insurance, if you hire a subcontractor or a contractor that does not have insurance, just know that you're taking on a lot of risk if something does happen. If they drive their vehicle over your sprinkler heads, if they drive their vehicle through your garage door, if they accidentally flood your house, you're taking that liability just by hiring your contractor who does not have insurance. So when you're hiring a contractor, you want to make sure that you look at other projects that your contractor is currently in. A lot of times a contractor will show you their phone. They'll say, here's the project that I did. I did this, this, and this. And pictures don't always tell the full story. Instead of just hiring a contractor based upon what they're telling you that they've done, it's probably good that you go and you look at 1, 2, or 3 of the projects that they're currently in. If they're in 3 projects, you can kind of see what kind of blemishes you're going to have. You're going to kind of see how their guys are working, what quality they're able to produce. If they don't have projects that they're currently in, they're probably not a good contractor, and they're probably not a contractor that you want to hire. You also don't want to take references or referrals from family members or their employees, right? Don't call their mom and say, hey, how well of a job does your son do on their house? Because mom's always going to stick up for their kids, unless their mom doesn't like their kid, but that's typically not going to happen, right? So when you're calling references, call references of people who have done more than one job for them. Make sure that those jobs have been completed in the last 6 months. Contractors sometimes have a tendency to be good for a short period of time or a period of time, and then go bad for whatever reason. And so make sure that those are current jobs that they were in, and you're looking at current houses that they've either remodeled or that they're in the process of remodeling before you choose to hire your contractor. As far as the referrals, just ask as many questions as you possibly can. Were they on time? Did they stick to budget? Were they clean on the project? Would you recommend them to do work for you again? Would you refer them to your mom? And you can, just by asking about 10, 15 questions, you will get a lot of information from your references on whether that contractor is valuable to you or not. So time matters. You want to know what is the start date. Now, a lot of investors, they're very rigid. They think that the contracting world should be 100% perfect. Everything should start on time. Everything should end on time. You told me you would start here. You told me you would end here. From the experience, and that's how I used to think as an investor, right? From experience, though, I'm letting you know that it's not always the case. It's not the case at all. I mean, we try to start on time. We try to end on time. But you as an investor should have some flexibility, not over flexibility. Not like, oh, it took them 2 years longer than what they said they were going to be. But if they're like, hey, I'm going to start on Monday and they end up starting on Tuesday, don't be too bent out of shape about that, because there's a lot of moving parts and you might not understand what's going on from your contractor side. Nonetheless, you should identify your start date and you should identify your end date. At least you have mile markers to hold your contractor accountable. In the event that they start a week or 2 or 3 weeks late, at that point you should probably fire your contractor. And if they're getting so grossly over your time that they told you that it was going to be done, then you should look at firing them as well. However, if there is a deviation of work, a change order, you've added something or you've taken something away from the project, then that time that it takes for them to end the project will probably go a little bit longer if there was a change to the original scope of work. So if you set a date out and it's 2 months out from today and there's changes, just be flexible with your contractor and say, how much more time is it going to be, because there has been changes to the project. My name is Ron Carlson. I'm with Renovation Gurus. I appreciate you taking time to watch all this information. I'm hoping that it benefits you in your investment world, that you are able to buy more houses, that you're wiser, smarter because of this education. Propelio Academy has a lot more videos. Continue to watch them, continue to educate yourself. If for some reason you want to contact me or you want to contact somebody on my team, feel free to reach us at renovationgurus.com. You can also call our 855 number. It's 855-99-GURUS. Gurus translated as 48787. So it'll be 855-99-48787, or you can reach us at admin@renovationgurus.com. If you have questions, if you need a bid, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for your time.